Hello, and welcome to our webinar on doing business in Poland. I'm Christian Fielding, I'm Chief Executive of Advartis Group, and I'm delighted to have with me this morning Agata Nierzykowska.
Hello.
Who's our Head of Tax for Crow Poland, Ania Jecinkowska.
Hello.
Who's Head of Group Corporate Services for TGC Corporate Lawyers, and Wojciech Marczyshin.
Hello.
Who's CEO of TGC Corporate Lawyers. We're going to be talking to you today about some of the opportunities to expand into Poland as an investment market. Before we do so, we very much hope the information that we provide on this webinar will be useful to you. If you do have any questions, please do click on the side of your screen and we will attempt to answer as quickly as possible if you use the chat function. Before going into some of the opportunities that Poland provides to potential investors, we'd like to talk to you first of all a little bit about who we are. Advartis Group is a multidisciplinary professional services practice. We've been operating on the Polish market for over 27 years, and we operate out of 7 offices in 3 countries, Poland, Czech Republic, and Slovakia. We have a team of over 500 experts across the various spectrum of professional services, and we're also a member of Crow Global, which is the 8th largest accounting network in the world, which enables us to deliver global reach to our clients, which is more and more important. We operate in our markets through 3 core brands. We deliver our accounting, tax and audit services through the Crow brand. We also provide HR and payroll consulting and outsourcing through contract administration. And we deliver a full service legal firm practice through the TGC Corporate Lawyers brand. Moving swiftly to the opportunities that present themselves if you want to invest in Poland, we thought we'd start by first of all giving you a general overview of Poland as a country and what the main characteristics are if you are planning on investing. Poland is one of the largest countries in the European Union with a population of 38.4 million people and a geographical area of 312,000 square kilometers. It shares the same time zone as most of the European Union, and it's strong in second languages. The main second languages that most people speak are French, German, English, and Russian. Why would you choose Poland as an investment destination? Well, the first point is its strategic location. Poland is located in the very heart of Central Eastern Europe, with a coastline on the Baltic at the north and strong communication routes to other parts of the European Union and also the East. It also has strong market potential. Poland is the 6th largest market population in the European Union, and by 2030, it's predicting that we will increase the disposable income in Poland by almost 34%. Poland as a country also offers a number of investment incentives to those companies which are planning to invest in Poland, particularly in relation to real estate, with tax exemptions and also other types of exemption and incentives for companies in specific strategic sectors. Poland also benefits from a particularly stable economy, with 3.5% GDP growth predicted for 2019 and 2020, comparing to the average EU growth rate of 2%. Warsaw is also particularly strong in human capital, with educated specialists in the fields of economics, science, and also IT. And it's also fast becoming a hub in innovation and technology, and it's moving up the ranks in the Global Innovation Index. It was previously ranked 56th place, and it's already moved to 38th place. Before moving into the detail of how to get into business in Poland, we thought it would also be helpful to talk a little bit about 6 key strategic sectors. The first sector we wanted to talk about is manufacturing. Poland has the 6th largest sector for manufacturing in the EU, with an annual average growth rate of 6%. The key manufacturing areas that Poland excels in are automotive, food processing, and electronics. Automotive is the 2nd largest industrial sector in Poland and has recorded 100% growth during the last decade. Food processing provides work for more than 10% of the employment population. and electronics is one of the most promising and growing sectors for industry in Poland, where people are drawn here due to the logistical capability as well as labor and human resources. The second sector we wanted to talk about is the wholesale and retail trade. Investments in wholesale and retail are the third most valuable destination point for foreign investment in Poland. This is partly due to the sizable and relatively young population here. It's also because Poland has a central location, which is a major incentive for companies which are aiming to slash their time to market for customers in Eastern markets. The third strategic sector, which is of particular interest in Poland, is new technologies. The steady growth of the Polish economy, as well as the investment incentives, such as special economic zones, encourage numerous companies to concentrate on both manufacturing and development of new technologies. Until 2026, these special economic zones will offer preferential treatment to entrepreneurs investing in key strategic sectors, such as new technologies. And there's also a very strong R&D sector, which similarly is promoted because Poland has 1.5 million students. The fourth strategic sector of particular interest is business services and information and communication technologies. Poland is one of the most popular offshore nearshore locations in Europe, and this is because it benefits from highly qualified employees while labor costs remain relatively low in comparison with the rest of the EU. The strategic location of Poland also eases movement of employees for daily business work, not just within Poland, but of course throughout the European Union. And Poland's EU membership offers a number of other benefits, such as harmonization of regulation with other EU countries. The fifth key sector, which may be of particular interest, is the real estate and construction sector. The Polish real estate market is one of the strongest growing markets in both Central and Eastern Europe. Not only does Poland benefit from a primary office cluster in Warsaw, but there are also a number of other strategic cities outside Poland which also offer the potential for real estate and construction development. The Polish warehouse market is also particularly strong, and it has a strong legal background underpinning the real estate sector, which is clear and stable. The final sector, which is of key strategic interest in Poland, is the logistics market, which is the 7th largest transportation market in the EU. The rapid improvement of the quality and quantity of transport infrastructure within Poland is a main driver for the growth of this business sector, and there are a number of planned investments in both the sea and air infrastructure sector. Poland also has a very well developed warehouse market, as I mentioned, and road transport and railroad transport networks are stronger and stronger throughout the countries, also supported by strong air travel within the country while road and rail is developed. There is also a strong sea transport hub in the north, enabling not only cargo traffic in recent years, but stronger and stronger development of other traffic connected by the strong road and rail networks. That summarizes a brief general overview of Poland. I'd like to now hand across to Ania Dzieciankowska, who will give a brief description of the various business forms if you're planning on setting up in Poland.
Thank you, Christian. We would like to present to you the most popular forms of the business activity in Poland. As you can see, there are 4 basic main types of business activity, which is limited liability company, joint stock company, limited partnership, and branch office. The purpose of setting up specific businesses are that the limited liability company is mainly used for a small and medium-sized business for any business purpose that is allowed by law. Joint stock companies are usually chosen by large-scale business. Usually these are the big corporations and manufacturers. Banks and insurance companies must be working as joint stock companies. Limited partnership is usually chosen by those who work under their own business name, usually used by professionals such as law firms, audit firms, and also often used for real estate business. The branch offices are used by foreign entrepreneurs who do not want to establish a corporate presence in Poland. The first two companies, limited liability company and joint stock company, they have legal personality, whereas limited partnership and branch office don't. You can see here the description of the main governing bodies of the companies. In both limited liability company and joint stock company, the governing bodies are similar. Shareholders meeting or general assembly of shareholders, management board, and supervisory board. Supervisory board is obligatory in joint stock company. It is not obligatory in LLC. Only in certain cases the LLC must appoint the supervisory board. In limited partnership, the general partners represent the company. It may also be represented by the limited partner, but only as the attorney in fact. Branch office is represented by the management board of its parent company or by local representative appointed by the management board. In each company must have its accounting run. Full accounting in Polish and in Polish currency must be run in limited liability company and joint stock company. In limited partnership, income and expense book is possible if the partners are natural persons. In case of if any of the partners is a limited liability company or joint stock company, full accounting must be provided. Branch office has to have separate accounting books run in Polish and in Polish currency. Provision on accountancy tax ledgers is required by domestic tax law. Here you will see the description of the establishment process of typical business forms in Poland. For limited liability company and joint stock company, the establishment process is similar. For each company, the founding shareholders must sign the founding deed of the Articles of Association, in which the basic provisions for the company are determined, such as the business name, shareholders, amount of the share capital, etc. Each of the shareholder must contribute its share to the company. At the incorporation of the company, the management board or supervisory board must be appointed. The incorporation of the company is closed with the registration at the National Court Register. For limited partnership, the statutes are signed in a notarized form before a notary public by each partner. The partnership must also be registered in the National Court Register. When the branch office is established, the management board of the mother company should adopt a resolution on the establishment of the branch office in Poland and appoint the local representative. Also, the branch office must be registered in the National Court Register. Since for setting up the limited liability company or joint stock company, you need at least several weeks. So in order to save time and trouble, ready-made shelf companies are available for purchase within a couple of days. In each company has its liability, and it is similar for limited liability company and joint stock company. The companies are liable for their debts and obligations with their whole property without any limitations. The shareholders, however, are not liable for the company's obligations. They bear a risk only up to the value of shares they held. Directors of the company, however, bear personal liability for the company debts and obligations if they do not comply with their legal obligations they have towards the companies they run. In limited partnership, the general partner is liable without any limitation for the debts and obligations of the partnership, but the limited partner is liable only up to the amount of the contributed sum. If the limited partner decides to have his name entered in the name of the partnership, this limited partner will be liable in the same way as the general partner. In the branch office, the full liability is with the foreign entrepreneur. The person representing the foreign entrepreneur in the branch is not responsible for the liabilities of the branch or the foreign mother company. The branch representative does not bear liability for tax liabilities of the branch or the foreign entrepreneur himself. Now, please over to Agata.
Thank you, Anna. Having this knowledge given to you by Anna on the legal forms of business activity in Poland, I would like to give you a general overview on the taxation system in Poland, as well as the main tax burdens for business entities operating in Poland. The most important taxes that you need to take into account are the corporate income tax, value-added tax, withholding tax, real estate tax, and tax on civil law transactions. These are the most popular ones which you may come across when carrying out business operations in Poland. Corporate income tax in Poland is applicable to limited liability companies and joint stock companies, as well as one of the limited partnerships that Anna mentioned, which is also subject to corporate income taxation. Other partnerships are subject to personal income taxation, where this is of course in case where the partners are individuals. Corporate income tax also applies to the income derived by a branch office in Poland. The standard corporate income tax rate is 19%. However, there is also a possibility to benefit from a reduced income tax rate, which is 9%, and this may apply to companies with maximum revenues of up to 1.2 million euros in a given tax year, as well as companies that are starting their business, however, only from 2019. And this applies in the first year of their operations. There is also a reduced tax rate applicable to profits from selected intellectual property rights, and this rate is 5%. This is a new rate that was introduced into the Polish tax system starting from 2019. It is possible for corporate income taxpayers to carry forward losses. The period of carrying forward tax losses is 5 years, and tax losses may only be set off against future income which are derived from the same source of income. The loss may be up to 50% of a loss may be utilized in a given tax year, or it is possible to utilize up to 5 million zlotych of the tax loss in 1 year, and the remaining part of the losses, which was not deducted in a given year, may be set off in the following years in that 5-year period. But this is limited to 50% of the remaining part of the loss in one year. Withholding tax is applicable to interests, royalties, management fees paid out from Poland to foreign entities. And the standard rate is 20%. This is the rate that is applicable to interest, royalties, management fees, some services like advisory services, legal services, accounting services. The rate that is applicable to dividends that are paid out from Polish companies to foreign shareholders is 19%. It is of course possible to apply a reduced withholding tax rate based on double tax treaties. Poland has signed over 80 double tax treaties with other states. As also Poland has implemented the Interest and Royalties Directive and the Parent Subsidiary Directive, which allows either to reduce the withholding tax rate or to apply for an exemption on the withholding tax. Of course, there are certain conditions that need to be met in order to benefit from those regulations. Value-added tax in Poland is also one of the main burdens. The standard rate that is applied to most goods and services is 23%. There is a reduced 8% rate that applies to pharmaceuticals and medical products, to most foodstuffs, magazines and newspapers, residential housing, transportation services. Of course, this is not a full list of services and goods to which this rate applies. We also have introduced a 5% VAT rate that applies to unprocessed foods and books, and some services, including financial and insurance services, are exempt from VAT. Tax on civil law transactions is a specific kind of tax that is levied on agreements entered into by either individuals or companies. And this applies to agreements where the ownership rights are transferred to another entity. The rates are 2% in case of sale of real property, 1% in case of sale of shares, 0.5% applicable to loan agreements, and 0.5% that applies to partnership agreements and articles of associations. What is important is that in case of the loan agreements, it is possible to apply an exemption in case of financing by a shareholder. So this 0.5% rate does not apply in any case. It is also possible to benefit from the exemption of tax on civil law transactions in case of a loan agreement that is where the loan is given by a financial institution. The personal income tax in Poland is 19 in case of business income is 19%, and this is an option where a sole trader may apply to inform the tax office that he would like to use to apply this 19% flat PIT rate. Polish tax residents are taxable on their worldwide income, whereas tax non-residents are taxed only on their Polish source income. PIT advances have to be paid on monthly basis by the 20th of the following month, and the annual tax return should be filed by the 30th of April of the following year. The standard personal income tax rate in Poland is 18% in case of income that do not exceed 85,528 złotych in a given year, and the surplus is subject to 32% of PIT. However, starting from this year, a new tax, which is called the solidarity tax, was introduced into the Polish tax system, and it is due on profits exceeding 1 million złotych per year, and the tax rate is 4%. It applies only to this surplus over this 1 million złotych earned in a given tax year. Mandatory disclosure rules were introduced into the Polish tax system starting from the 1st of January this year, and I believe that Poland is one of the first countries that decided to implement the MDR law in Poland. Those regulations implement the Council Directive on mandatory automatic exchange of information in the field of taxation in relation to reportable cross-border arrangements. Poland has decided to widen the scope of the reportable tax arrangements as compared to the European directive, and also provided an extended definition of reportable tax arrangements. So in Poland, those rules apply not only to cross-border tax arrangements, but also to domestic tax arrangements, as well as VAT arrangements. Of course, the VAT arrangements, they apply only to the local Polish tax arrangements. The tax arrangements that are subject to reporting obligations, they include cross-border arrangements that are defined in the DAC 6 directive, as well as other arrangements, including a wide range of domestic arrangements. And this is, these are the main points of the reporting obligations. However, we have also implemented listed more hallmarks than the European Council Directive that indicate potential risk of tax avoidance. So in Poland we have listed 25 hallmarks, while in the European Union Directive it's 15 hallmarks. The reporting is required starting from 2018. So cross-border tax schemes in relation to which the first activity implementing this scheme took place after the 25th of June 2018 needs to be reported. As regards domestic tax schemes, any tax scheme that, of which the implementation took place after the 1st of November 2018 needs to be reported. The deadline for reporting for the arrangements that were implemented in 2018 is the 30th of June this year. And tax schemes that were implemented starting from 2019, they should be reported within 30 days from the date that the scheme was implemented or shared. Taxpayers with revenues or costs that exceed the amount of 8 million Polish złotych in the previous tax year, they are obliged to introduce a special procedure that would cover the fulfillment of the obligations resulting from the MDR directive and reporting obligations. If such a procedure is not in place, there is a high risk of a penalty which may be up to 2 million złotych. Starting from 2019, we have also introduced a very beneficial instrument for Polish entrepreneurs, which is the IP box. I believe that this is one of the instruments that is also commonly used in some other European Union countries, and this is the first year of its use in Poland. This IP box option gives the possibility to apply the 5% CIT rate to income from selected intellectual property rights, which are created or developed or improved by the taxpayer as a result of R&D activities that he's carrying on. As regards the amount of qualified income that may be subject to this preferential tax rate, it corresponds to the amount calculated as the income obtained from selected intellectual property rights multiplied by a special nexus ratio that was implemented following the recommendations of the BEPS action number 5, which I will of course present in further slides. As regards the intellectual property rights that are subject to this IP box taxation, these are the rights to the patent, additional protection rights for invention, protection right for utility model, protected rights to software, rights from registration of varieties of plants and animal breeds, patents for medical products or plant protection products, and rights from registration of industrial designs. There is a closed list in the Polish tax regulations, so if the IP right is a qualified right, then the taxpayer is automatically entitled to benefit from this 5% reduced tax rate. However, there is a condition that any of those rights, they need to be protected under the legally protected under the local regulations or ratified international agreements. The formula that is used to calculate the qualified income subject to the beneficial preferential 5% rate is presented in this slide. In this formula, the letters stand for costs that were actually incurred in respect of the following: R&D activity carried out in connection with the IP rights, acquisition of the results of R&D activity from unrelated party, acquisition of R&D results from a related entity, as well as purchase of a qualifying IP right. As you can see from this formula, it is the most preferential situation is where R&D activities are either carried out by the company internally, or the results of R&D are purchased from an unrelated party. These costs include costs directly related to qualifying IP rights. Costs that are not directly related, they should not be included in this formula. So interest, financial costs, the costs of renting out real property, they may not be included as qualified costs. If the ratio calculated based on this formula would be greater than 1, it is assumed that the ratio is 1. So it is not possible to have this qualified income in a higher amount than the income really actually obtained from IP rights. What kind of income are regarded as income from qualifying IP rights? These are fees and royalties received for the qualified right under license agreements, income received from sale of qualifying IP right, income derived from qualified IP rights that are embedded in the sale price of products or services, as well as compensation relating to a qualifying IP right. What is interesting, it is also possible to apply this 5% reduced rate in case of an expectancy of obtaining a qualified IP right. Of course, there are several conditions that need to be met in order to benefit from this IP regulations, IP box regulations, and taxpayers are required to keep special separate records in order to be able to calculate properly the qualifying and the income and the costs relating to the qualifying IP rights. If there is more than one qualified IP rights, the taxpayer has the possibility to keep the records together. But based on those records, he should be able to determine the total income of those IP rights. If the records that are kept do not allow to determine the income or the loss from the qualifying IP rights, then automatically there is no possibility to apply this 5% tax rate to those income. Another interesting incentive for the Polish, in the Polish tax system is the research and development tax relief. Taxpayers who are carrying R&D activities, they are entitled to deduct some eligible costs related to R&D activities from the tax base. The R&D activity is the activity that has a creative character, and it involves research or development, and it is undertaken in a systematic manner to increase knowledge resources and to use knowledge resources to create new applications. The R&D relief allows to deduct 100% of eligible costs incurred in a given tax year from the income. In case of taxpayers that have the status of research and development centers, they are entitled to deduct 150% of the eligible costs. The categories of eligible costs covered by the R&D relief are also listed in the CIT regulations, and these are salaries and social security contributions in case of employment contracts, in case of co-workers who conduct R&D activities based on a contract, cost of purchasing materials and raw materials related to R&D activities, costs of purchasing equipment, and some fixed assets that are directly related to the R&D activities. And last but not least, Poland has also implemented special new regulations on Polish investment zones. Up till now, we had special economic zones allowing to benefit from tax exemptions. However, they were limited to certain locations. Under the new regulations, the Polish investment zone may be located any place in Poland, and companies may apply for a CIT exemption for a new investment that is placed in any location in Poland. It does not necessarily need to be located within a so-called special economic zone. The investment incentive is a CIT exemption that is depending on the size of the investment, of the value of the investment, which is multiplied by a percentage of public aid which is allowed in the given region of Poland. And up to this amount, the investors do not have to pay CIT. This is not available to retail, wholesale, and construction companies, and it may be utilized for a period of 10 to 15 years, depending on the location of the investment. What's interesting, there is a wide scope of operations which fall under those exemptions, and the CIT exemption may be granted to all businesses from traditional industries, with the exception of production of alcohol, tobacco, steel, electric energy, and gas. It may be granted to companies for companies carrying operations within the IT services, R&D and natural technical sciences, bookkeeping and book control, accounting services, call centers, and architectural and engineering services. Just to give you a brief overview on the Polish investment zone, an investment of 10 million Polish złotych is the threshold for qualification for large operations. For small and medium enterprises, it is possible to apply a reduced threshold. For investments in new businesses and services and R&D, The investment threshold is a bit lower, and it is 500,000 złotych, irrespective of the size of the enterprise that would like to apply for this incentive. Obtaining the investment is subject to meeting, of course, numerous conditions and some formal requirements. And as I mentioned, certain businesses are excluded from the possibility of this investment incentive. So in order of new investments, it is advisable to consider the potential benefits of the CIT exemption or expansion of the existing investments in Poland. I would like to pass on the floor to Wojciech now, who will guide you through some cases on the Polish market. Thank you.
Thank you, Agata. So my colleagues has briefly led you through the key factors of the and key specifics of the Polish market. So what are the key sectors, what are the forms of doing business in Poland, and what are the taxation regulations in Poland. I would like to lead you through 3 cases, samples of our clients that decided to expand their business from UK to Poland, why they did so, what were the key factors, what they focused on, and how they did. And of course, how they benefited from moving part of the business to Poland. So let me start with client number 1, which is a British-designed kids' clothes producer. This is a company based in Manchester with core business that relates to production, design, and import of clothes from Asia. The key market, of course, naturally it was UK. Then they expanded to the whole European Union, and now they operate in the whole market of Europe. They are working mainly through distribution of the clothes in the shopping centers, shopping malls, and cooperate with the whole market. So the high cost of distribution of their goods, especially the ones imported from Asia, this was one of the key challenges that they were facing. The other factor that they were facing was the potential risk of increased custom duties, especially in the perspective of uncertain geopolitical situation in UK, potential Brexit. So this was the factor that they were looking at. And last but not least, ineffective supply chain for EU clients. So they were importing the goods from Asia to UK. Then this was transported further to the whole Europe, and they found a lot of ineffectiveness in this. And that's why they started to look for another location for business, looking at various places where they chose Poland and why they did so. So first of all, and one of the key factors that they focused on was access to the sea and sea transportation, so access to seaports. Poland has, of course, a number of seaports, and this was one of the important factors. The general good geographical location in the middle of Europe with a good place for from the logistics perspective for the further transfer of their goods to other countries in Europe. Important factor was also the way lower cost of operating compared to UK or the so-called Western Europe. It relates to the cost of the properties, the rents, warehouse maintenance, and of course the employment costs. Another factor was Poland membership in European Union. This was, of course, a very important factor from the perspective of the business. And last but not least, tax preferences. This is what Agata has mentioned. So taking all these factors into account, they decided to expand the business and start their activities in Poland. So how they started with this operation. So first of all, they reviewed the advantages of expanding the business. This is what I mentioned, and this is also and how we supported the client. Then they had to, of course, review the potential locations in Poland, review the market, and choose the best location for the new warehouse. And after doing so, they decided to focus mainly on the core business. So they outsourced all the non-core activities like accounting, payroll, tax advisory, everything to external provider. And this is how we cooperated with them. And of course, they they needed a lot of legal advice during the whole process. In the end, because this is something that happened a couple of months back, they benefited in a number of ways that you can see on the right side of the slide. So first of all, the location of the warehouse in the intersection of trade routes in the continental Europe, this allowed them to reduce transportation costs and shorten the delivery time to a number of places in Europe. They managed to simplify the supply chain for goods that were sent to European Union, especially the ones that were bought in the Asia. So they didn't need to. In fact, they could skip one of the steps in the whole process of transportation through UK. They decreased the risk profile in area of custom duties depending on what's happening from the geopolitical situation. They have, of course, new storage space for goods, and this is in much lower cost compared to the previous one that they were operating in. And last but not least, they increased their accessibility and deliver much better value for clients, especially from the CEE region. Yes, so it's Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary. This is much better and closer to the market. So in the end, after a couple of months, they definitely benefited in a number of ways, and are thinking about how to increase the presence in our market for future. The second client that I would like to discuss is a mass media tech company that they are expanding their international reach. So this is a company that is providing services in US, Canada, and the whole Europe, having two headquarters. One of them is located in UK, the other in US. So they were operating for a number of years from those two markets, delivering services abroad. Mainly they are focusing on the, of course, IT sector, so they are employing a huge number of programmers and other IT professionals. And this was in fact one of the key challenges of their business, and especially for their further development, because recruitment of programmers and other IT staff is extremely difficult at these days, especially in the developed market. This is also quite an expensive exercise. So the recruitment of high-class programmers was one of the challenges that they were facing. The other one was, of course, that's very strongly related. These are the high labor costs in UK and the US. And the third one was potential issue of respecting copyrights of authors in accordance with EU legislation after potential Brexit. So why the client chose Poland? After reviewing of the situation and potential locations of the further growth of the business, they decided that access to a qualified and cost-efficient workforce in area of IT and telco, this is something really very important and very strong on the Polish market. Stable geopolitical situation in Poland as a member of European Union and Schengen area, this is of course another factor, taking into consideration access to also to the Ukrainian job market. Tax preferences for IT business, this is also what Agata mentioned, IP box and this kind of tools and vehicles that they could use, and geographical location in the center of Europe. What key actions of the client were supported by us and how the clients operated? So first of all, initially we have worked with them to trying to assess what tax benefits they could use and what would be the implications of these activities for their business if they do it in Poland. After the successful, let's say, theoretical exercise, they moved to the second step and decided to buy ready-made shelf company, so they could shorten the time to market to the minimum. So in fact, they could start operating in a couple of, let's say, weeks, and all the back office functions, similarly to the previous case, they decided to outsource and really focus on the core activities. So focus on recruitment of programmers, IT professionals from the market to deliver the highest possible value. And after couple of months, they decided to move significant part of their operations and production to Poland because of those factors that I have just mentioned. And after reviewing this whole exercise after a couple of months, they have noticed a number of benefits mainly the ones that they predicted before. So they succeeded with this operation. So they gained access to relatively cheap and highly qualified workforce with particular focus on Polish and Ukrainian market, but not limited to this. This is also market Belarus market, also Hungarian programmers, Czech Republic, Slovakia, as I mentioned before. So they gained a huge access to a new quality of programmers and IT professionals. Thanks to the available tax preferences, they were able to use those incentives and decrease their total profit. And also that a significant reduction of costs that enabled them to increase investment into further growth of the organization. And last but not least, regulation and unification of copyrights for clients of employees. This is a kind of risk management from the perspective of potential future events that might happen in Europe. And the third client that I would like to discuss and describe, this is an international UK-based sport clothes producer. This is to some extent similar case to the first one that I have described. So it's a major sport and tourist clothes producer with headquarters in UK, operates on the basis of own shops, as well as they cooperate with supermarkets, shopping malls, hypermarkets across the whole Europe. So the key challenges that they are facing, or they were facing, was an increased business risk profile, mainly caused by the uncertain geopolitical situation. So this mainly relates to potential after Brexit VAT settlements and custom duties increase, as well as potential increase of supply chain complexity. This relates to the whole procedures relating to potential Brexit, as well as they noticed and recognized some inefficiencies related to transportation from Asia to the head office, and then redistribution to the whole Europe, where most of the clients are located. So, sorry. So stable geopolitical situation in Poland and the European Union and Schengen area, these were one of the key factors, of course, why they chose Poland as the location for their activities in the continental Europe. Low cost of establishing a company, and in general low cost of doing business in Poland, especially taking into consideration special economic zones and other tax preferences that are present on the Polish market. Highly educated workforce combined with relatively low labor costs in Poland. So this is quite an important factor. If you look at the average remuneration in Poland versus European Union average, this is around 28% of EU average. So this is quite a strong advantage of our market versus so-called Western Europe. And of course, good communication point in UK and continental Europe, as well as strong communication skills of Polish people. Lots of Polish speaking fluent English. So this was also the very important factor from their perspective. How we worked with this client. So we started with preparation of business case and financial model for the whole operation, for the moving of the part of the business to Poland. Then the client decided to set up a tailor-made company for themselves. They used the LLC vehicle for their activities in Poland. We supported back office function by outsourcing the accounting and payroll services to our organization, and help them with general organization of business activities. The benefits they recognize mainly decreased time to market for products for most of the markets in Europe, streamlined logistics processes. They decreased the cost with using some of the tax incentives, as well as decrease the residual risk of VAT settlements, and then improved the efficiency thanks to cost optimization that mainly relates to the labor cost as well as office cost. Saying this, I would like to thank you very much for your present. As you can see, there is a number of factors the companies has taken into consideration, not only the tax incentives, but also the specifics of our markets, the cost of operating here, combined with the high quality of people on the market, as well as very good geopolitical and geographical location in Europe. I would like to encourage you to think and discuss Poland as one of the locations for your future expansion, especially in the perspective of current geopolitical situation. And I would like to also encourage you to contact us directly with any questions that might arise for you in the future after this presentation or during any of your future decisions relating to our market. Thank you very much, and hopefully see you soon.